The movie starts off with some FBI agents arriving at the house of an old woman. The elderly woman introduces them to her husband, who seems to be repeating some words again and again. The agents ask her whether her husband is visually impaired. The woman confirms their statement with a nod, but she also makes them aware of an interesting fact. It's true that her husband used to be visually impaired, but he isn't anymore. They are thankful for this unexpected blessing, but also wonder how it could have been possible. The woman has a theory though. Some time ago, they heard a mysterious ramming outside their house. When she went to check, she saw that a meteorite had fallen near their home. However, when they went to check the following morning as well, there was nothing but some remnants of the meteorite. The FBI agents put together their theory and believe that someone must have stolen the meteorite. They also believe that the old woman's husband is no longer blind because of the magical power of the meteorite. In the meantime, David, a mechanic by profession, sits by the grave of his wife Jane. He has not recovered from her untimely demise. Due to this, he often performs poorly in his job at a garage. The underperformance makes his boss so mad that he fires David. David pleads with him, saying that he is in dire need of this job. However, his plea falls on deaf ears. Just as he is about to leave, Jack, a veteran of a war currently ongoing in Iran, asks for a job at the garage. David tells him that he has just been fired and suggests Jack search somewhere else. David then goes to a local bar where he encounters Jack once again. The news about the war between America and Iran is being played on the TV. Just then, a man comes to the bar who, after watching the news, starts giving his absurd opinion about the war. Jack, a veteran of the war, gets angry at the man, and soon a fight breaks out between the two. Sadly, Jack is beaten brutally by the man and his friends. When David sees the commotion, he intervenes and defends Jack. However, he is also beaten to the pulp. During this brutal exchange, one of the opponents mistakenly pulls out Jack's prosthetic leg. It causes them to panic and leave the scene immediately. It is then revealed that Jack lost one of his legs during the war. After everybody else is gone, he thanks David for coming to his aid. David later returns home, where his daughter Annie is waiting for him because it is his birthday. When she sees him in a battered condition, she firmly cleans his wounds. From their conversation, it is revealed that Annie has been expelled from her college for not paying the fees for 2 months. After hearing this, David blames himself for being the worst father and goes outside to freshen himself. He then takes off in his car to return to the bar. However, on his way, he sees a meteor falling from the sky. Due to its bright light, he is unable to control the car and sadly meets with an accident. His car overturns on the sidewalk, injuring him very badly. Although battered and bruised, David manages to get out of his car. This is when he sees a shadow of his dead wife. The scene then abruptly cuts to the next day, where Annie is waiting for her father to return home. Her anxiety grows by the second as he doesn't show up the whole day. She effortlessly searches for her father, but to no avail. When Annie is returning home in the evening, she sees David's car, which had crashed earlier in the night. She then hurriedly gets out of the car and looks for her father. Unfortunately, he is yet nowhere to be seen. Sobbingly, she restarts her car and switches on the front lights. This is when she sees her father right in front of her. Seeing his condition, Annie immediately takes him to the hospital. After treating him, the doctor discovers something very strange. She tells Annie that her father inexplicably has 2 functioning kids, even though his records show that one was removed in the past. Annie lets the doctor know that her father had donated his kidney to her mom. However, her mom's body rejected the transplanted kidney, leading to her untimely demise. She is shocked to hear that both the kidneys are somehow present in her father's body. Later, a flashback is shown of the accident where David is found near the meteorite crash site. While he is unconscious, some strange roots sprout out of the meteorite and swirl around his arms. Back in the present, David starts having hallucinations of his late wife. She advises him to bring the meteorite home and save their daughter. David believes that his wife is alerting them of the nuclear threat of the Iran war and wants them to be safe. The next day, he goes to a shelter for disabled people. There he approaches Jack and promises him a job. David then takes Jack to the same place where the meteorite had fallen. He discovers that some roots have grown out of the object. With the help of a rope, David and Jack tie the meteorite and load it into their car. They then keep the object in David's storeroom. Jack returns to his shelter when suddenly that night he feels excruciating pain in his amputated leg. Actually, Jack had picked up the meteorite and placed it in David's car. During this time, he had come into contact with the mysterious object. Jack then shockingly finds his amputated leg slowly regenerating. It seems like the unknown meteorite can repair any part of the body like the old man's eyes, David's kidney, and now Jack's leg. The next day, Jack continues to have severe pain in his leg, causing him to bleed. Left with no choice, He confronts David and demands an explanation. David then tells Jack and Annie about the object he found in the woods and insists that Jack must be brought near it. After this, he helps Jack inside his storeroom where he has kept the meteorite. David is convinced that the object is giving him instructions through his dead wife. So, he drives off somewhere, assuring Annie and Jack that he will be back soon. In the meantime, Jack is brought into proximity of the object, due to which he fully regains his leg. Seeing this bizarre transformation, Annie loses her consciousness and falls on the ground. When she returns to her senses, David also arrives back home with some cylinders. He tells her that the object was getting weak, so they need to heat it up to bring it back to its original temperature. Meanwhile, David, who has now completely regained his leg, stands up on both feet. Equally surprised, he tests his new leg as he walks on the front porch. David, on the other hand, believes that the object has given him some instructions to build a large structure. Therefore, he is caught up in drawing a mechanical shelter-like structure to keep the meteorite. In order to build the structure, he needs some materials. Since he doesn't have money, he goes to his friend Tony's local junkyard. He then takes Tony out in a bar and makes him drink a lot. After his friend passes out, David summons Jack and returns to the junkyard, after which they steal a large concrete mixer. They then drive the mixer to an abandoned factory and return home. In the meantime, the FBI agents are continuing their investigation on the meteorite. They get some samples from the crash site and interrogate the local police officer. The officer tells them that a few days ago, a guy had a terrible accident here. But even in such a terrible accident, nothing happened to him. This makes the agents realize that the meteorite must have somehow saved the man. In his storeroom, David is working to build a large structure for the meteorite. Outside, Annie gathers her mother's clothes to burn. Just then, the FBI agents, including Stipe and Lubinsky, arrive at the scene and begin questioning Annie about her father's whereabouts. Annie is forced to lead them to their father's storeroom. David pretends to not know anything about the meteorite when asked about it. The agents then tell him about the accident and how a blind man was cured when he came into contact with the object. They also confront him with his hospital records, which shows that he has mysteriously regained his kidney. David then leads them to the place where he had initially kept the meteorite. He shows them an empty space and says that the object somehow melted. After the agents are gone, he urges Annie and Jack to go to the abandoned factory. He tells them that he will join them soon. In the meantime, the FBI agents refuse to believe that the meteorite has melted. Therefore, they tail David on the road for a while. Soon after, David realizes that the agents are keeping an eye on him, so he calls one of his friends and very cleverly gives his car to him. As a result, the agents think David is in the same car and start chasing him while he escapes from their sight. He then goes to the abandoned factory, where Annie tells him that he should hand over the object to the agents, but David believes his late wife is trying to protect them from the incoming nuclear war through the object. The next day, Jack returns to his shelter and urges his veteran friend Jim to come with him. He explains to him about the magical powers of the meteorite, due to which he too can be cured. However, Jim believes that the nuclear war will start any day, so it would make no sense even if he gets cured by the object. On the other hand, Tony, the junk dealer, realizes that David has deceived him and stolen materials including the large concrete mixer from his warehouse. In search of his belongings, he reaches the same abandoned factory where David is working on the meteorite. Tony then confronts David, who, in an ensuing tussle, accidentally kills him. Filled with remorse, the protagonist goes inside the concrete mixer and confides with his late wife that he believes himself unworthy of the object. She then confirms that he must save Annie and Jack before fading into the darkness. In the meantime, the FBI agents learn that the object is a type of abiogenesis. Frustrated with no leads in the case, the agents return to David's house, where they take Jack and Annie hostage. David arrives outside his house just as they begin torturing Jack. He then lights up his wife's clothes to create a distraction. Thankfully, his plan works when the agents come outside to dampen the fire. As David, Annie, and Jack escape, Agent Stipe shoots Annie in the stomach, knowing David will return to the object to heal her. Our protagonist does exactly the same as he takes his injured daughter to the abandoned factory. There, Agent Stipe shoots David in the arm. However, his subordinate, Agent Lubinsky, refuses to follow Stipe's order, saying that the object should not be used to further the war effort by killing civilians. Consequently, Jack, Stipe, and David engage in a firefight, and all are wounded. Even in a battered state, David manages to help Jack and Annie into the large concrete mixer where the object is kept. He then apologizes for not being able to join them and seals them in. Then suddenly, a bright light flashes in the distance, indicating that the nuclear attack has started. Inside the mixer, The object starts melting, and a liquid-like water is filled inside. The final scene of the movie shows Jack and Annie emerge from the mixer, having been apparently cryogenically suspended. The outside world is in ruins, apart from the cement mixer, which has been rusted and overgrown with vegetation. It indicates that centuries have passed, and the pair is the only one to make it out alive. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.